Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And just a quick video here on gaining this world or to save your own soul. I believe that's what I got it titled. Right. So again, are you willing to, save your soul or, gain this world, a world of, full of sin, idolatry, wickedness, the things, the things in this world that really don't matter, um, as opposed to, saving your soul, which at the end of the day is being in the kingdom. Right, so let's hop into it. Let's get the book of Matthew first. Book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 25. It reads, it says, "For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it." So here the Lord is asking, hey, are you willing to, lose your life? Right? Are you willing to put everything, away in this world that at one point you cared about, your job, your family, your friends, doing the things that please them, whether it's being, Christmases, Thanksgivings, birthdays, some of your friends, hey, maybe you were going to, different clubs of that nature, just being around friends and family, doing the things that, really didn't have any substance and really didn't have any meaning, and not really, having your mind on the Most High. A lot of people, they say that they love God. They say that they're church believers, but, they do nothing to show that they really love the Most High, right? And, starting from the top again, it says, "For whosoever will lose," it's like, "For whosoever will save his life, right, shall lose it." Right. So if you're willing to, when it says to save his life, meaning to keep your life, keep your riches in this life that we have right now, right, in this world that we have right now, right. Save it in the aspect where, again, you're worried about your job, you're worried about your future and your 401k, Bitcoin, the gold and the silver that's being presented to you. People worried about being the next big thing, the next hip hop artist, the next big singer, the next professional athlete. The Lord is asking, are you willing to, put that aside to, to gain your soul, right? To save your life instead of losing it, right? Because if you care about the riches of this world, trying to, be seen amongst men, women, and family, the Lord is basically saying, or you're really saying that, you're not really want to lose this life that you have, right? You don't really you don't want you don't really want to put the necessary things forward that has substance. And again, what has substance? Hey, praying, study, reading, fast, exhortation, love your brother, loving Israel, right? These are the things that, shows that you love the Most High, right? You have to be willing to, lose this life, right? Lose everything that, that has, that lose everything that you think that means, a lot to you, right? Again, your job. I'm not saying that, there's nothing wrong with having a job or to, quit your job. But if you're putting your job, if you're putting family and friends, all these wicked holidays that that's been presented to us, if you're putting these things above and before the Most High, then you're going to lose your soul. You're not going to save your soul. So, it's very important for us as Israel that we leave this world behind, right? Because what you're really doing is you're being unselfish, being very, it's like you're being selfish, right? You're not really, showing the Most High that you love Him. And what is love? Keeping His commandments. That's First John 5:2 on down. So you really have to be, unselfish, because the Lord is a jealous God, right? He wants your attention. And how do you give Him your attention? Right? You give the Most High, right? You give the Most High, attention by praying, study, reading, fasting, exhortation, charity, giving alms, giving back to the poor, loving your brother. Right? All these things is how you show, you love the Most High, and that's being unselfish, right? You putting off the old man, putting on the new man, right? That new garment, that white garment, right? Um, Dedicating yourself, to this ministry, right? Dedicating yourself to the Most High, right? And denying the flesh, denying friends, denying family, because a lot of the times your friends and your family are not seeking after the same things that you're seeking after. Again, your family and friends are, they're worried about, their money. They're worried about their job. They're worried about, everything else, vacations and cruises and, whatever else the world has to offer. Again, not saying that there's nothing wrong with, going on trips and cruises and, vacations and things of that nature, but they're putting these things, they're saving their money, right? They stack up all their money, they get their paycheck, the income tax check, they're saving up all their money to go on these trips, to go on these cruises, right? To please their flesh, right? They're divulging in, these crab boils and trying to go to New Orleans and stuff they face, right? But for us, the 1/3 that's willing to, put away the mortal man, to come back to the Lord, to come back to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? You have to put on this new man, right? If you're really worried about this life, right, you're going to lack. It's like if you're really worried about this life, right, you gotta understand that you're going to lack spiritual increase, right? You're not going to get spiritual increase being in this world, right? Loving the things of this world, right? I'm gonna keep reading. It says, "For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" So the Lord is saying, what are you profiting? Right? You can have this whole world, right? But this whole world is about to come to naught. This whole world is about to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. Right? So the Lord is saying again, you can have this whole world, right? The fancy cars, the money, which is about to, be obsolete. Right? The Lord is saying you can gain the whole world, but what is it if you lose your soul? Right? It's all everything in this world is all vanity. Right? It says, or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? What can you give in exchange for your soul? Right? What's more profitable? What's more important than your soul? Everlasting life. Your soul is what's going to be with you in the kingdom of heaven. But if you don't save your soul, right? If you become a sellout, like a lot of these professional athletes, a lot of these singers, a lot of these entertainers, in Hollywood and wherever else, they have already sold their souls, right? They're finished. But for you, our people that want to come back and repent, right? You're going to have to, right? You're going to have to understand that you can't worry about, the cares of this life, right? Again, you're not going to increase. If you want to increase, right, put away this life, put away this world, right? If you want a spiritual increase, put away the cares of this world, right, and come back to the Most High, right? Let's go back to let's get another precept. First Peter. Right. all about spiritual increase, right? You want to stack up, we call it a spiritual bank account. A lot of people got this physical bank accounts where they got X amount of dollars, but your spiritual bank account is is going to, prevail. That's what's going to get you into the kingdom, right? It says, this is First Peter 5:7. It says, casting all your care upon Him. Again, the Lord is a jealous God, right? He wants all your attention. So with that, you're gonna have to put all your care, all your trust, all your burdens upon Him. Reading on, for He cares for you, right? The Lord wants all your burdens. The Lord wants all your time, all your everything, right? Because in return, He's going to give you everything. So if you give the Lord everything right now, He's going to give everything that He has promised to you in the end, right? It's an even trade, right? Because again, riches profit not in the day of wrath, right? Where it says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about seeking whom he may devour." Right. So we got to understand, Satan is always lurking. Satan is always trying to find a way to sift you out this truth. Right, let me get this quick precept on Proverbs before I forget. Right, again, we gotta leave off these riches. Again, if you want to save your soul, leave off from these riches, because it's not gonna profit. It's not gonna profit you. Right? I know we were born in a world full of riches where everything was glamorized, and it was taught that these things were going to sustain us and invent something to us. But again, once you come into the knowledge of this truth and understand what these riches are about to come to, all right, it's all about to be burned. It's all about to come to naught. And what's really about to come is the kingdom of heaven. Spiritual things, the things that you really can't even really see yet, but the Lord has promised them to us from the beginning. Right, the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 4, just to show you that these riches mean nothing. Right, it says, this Proverbs 11:4, riches profit not in the day of wrath. So again, when all hell is breaking loose, when Yahweh Shai come back on this earth, right, wrath is going to be on this earth. And with that wrath, the Lord is saying your riches is not going to save you. Your gold, your silver, your pearls, your money, your Bitcoin, whatever else that, whatever currency that's on this earth, it's not going to profit you. Right? It says, but righteousness delivereth from death. Right? What is righteousness? Right? Keeping God's commandments. And then another fold, righteousness is also through faith. And we're justified through faith. How? Through Yahweh Shai. All right, let's get there real quick. All right, Deuteronomy, the classic. All right, what is righteousness? Righteousness is keeping God's commandments. Right, it says, and it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before the Lord our God, right, as He hath commanded us. So what is righteousness? Do all His commandments, right? And on another fold, right, we have to have faith and works, right? These are part of the words. This is what the Lord wants you to see. This is what the Lord wants you to do. Faith and works, keeping the commandments, faith in His Son Yahweh Shai, right? Let's get this quick precept in Galatians, showing that we have righteousness, right, through faith in Yahweh Shai, which is very important because our faith, right, comes through Yahweh Shai, and that's another form of righteousness, right? I'm gonna start at verse number 4. I'm gonna start at verse number 1. It says, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Hamashiach hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage, right? What's that yoke of bondage? Right? The old letter, right? When we had to, do animal sacrifices, right? We're not under that law anymore. We're justified through Yahweh Shai now, right? And this is what, Paul and Peter was teaching is that we're not under that yoke of bondage anymore, right? We're under, grace and mercy through Yahweh Shai. It says, "Behold, I Paul say unto you that if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing." Right? Because again, in the old, in a letter, in the old letter, right, circumcision, it was in the law that we had to be circumcised. But now through Yahweh Shai is saying it profits you nothing, right? What profits you? Faith in Yahweh Shai, righteousness through Yahweh Shai. It says, "For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to the whole law." See that? You're a debtor to the whole law, right? Christ, Hamashiach, is become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified, see that, by the law, you are fallen from grace. So you're not justified by the law anymore. We're justified through Yahweh Shai, right? Through grace and mercy. It says, verse 5, here's the point. "For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. For in Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, neither circumcision availeth anything," right? Circumcision doesn't prove anything anymore, right? "Nor uncircumcision." But what is it? "But faith, which worketh by love." See that? So righteousness by faith is that love, is that work that you need in order to, to save your soul, right? And to lead this world, right? Again, if you're in this world, if you love this world, right, you're going to lack a spiritual increase. And the goal is to put as much spiritual money in your bank account as you can. A lot of people, they want to, they save their money to get, X amount of dollars in there so they can go on trips and vacation. But guess what? You want to pray as much as you want. You want to pray as much as you can, fast as much as you can, read, study, exhortate, right, give alms, right, in the rotation just like that. That's how you build up your spiritual bank account, right? Keep doing that. Keep a balance. Proverbs 11:1 says, "The Lord is a just balance," right, and He hates every false way. So that's how you keep your spiritual bank account. Keeping that Hebrew diet, right? Keep that in rotation, and the Lord will reward you openly for that, right? Again, in this world of sin, hey, we're born into sin, but that doesn't mean we stay in sin, right? This is Galatians 5 verse 19. It says, "Now the works of the flesh are manifest," because we're in the flesh, right? We're in the flesh, but we still have to, to do the things that's, contrary, through the of the flesh, right? Because the flesh, it loves sin, right? The flesh loves sin, but you have to think spiritually minded, right? How do you think spiritually minded? Reading these scriptures, reading these precepts, again, studying, praying to the Most High, asking the Lord, how to increase. Ask the Lord to, make you a better version of yourself. Ask the Lord to make you a better person that you were yesterday, right? And the Lord will reward you and give you these things openly, right? It says, "Read on, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness." All of these, at some point in time, we all indulged in. But again, we have to come out of these things in order to, save our soul. Because if not, guess what? You're going to gain. You're going to be in this world, right? You're going to gain all of these things that are in the world, and you don't want these things, right? All of these things are of the world. The Lord said, "Come out of the world." Right? Let's get that real quick. Right? The Lord said, "Come out of." All right, let me finish reading. "Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh." See, so if you do these things, right, in the flesh, which is of this world, you're not going to inherit the kingdom of heaven. right? You're gonna lose your soul, and you're gonna gain this world, and you're gonna die in this world. But we out here to tell our people you don't have to die. You can win, right? The whole point. Hey, everybody wants to win in this world, but we out here to tell our people this world is about to go, and there's a life, or there's a world after this one, right? There's a life after this one. And we want our people to get to the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans who are the Israelites. We want our people to get to this world, the world to come, right? What's that precept I was about to get? That's all right. We'll come back to it. All right, let's get another precept. This book of Matthew, chapter 13, and verse number 20. Right, it says, but he that, that's not what I wrote. Here we go. This is book of Matthew, chapter 13, and verse number 22. It says, he also that receives seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word. Right, so the seed is the word, right? The thorns are the distractions that's in this world, right? It says, is he that heareth the word and the care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches, right? Because a lot of people, a lot of our people are tied to, the riches, the fame, the cars, right? The fancy lifestyles, the women, the clothes, the jewelry, all of these things, right? This is the deceitfulness of riches because once again, it's vain. It's not going to profit you anything. So that's why it's called the deceitfulness of riches, right? And the deceitfulness of the riches, what choke the word, right? Prevent you from getting that spiritual increase, right? From getting the kingdom. And what? And he becometh unfruitful. So if you neglect this truth, if you neglect this word, right, you're going to become unfruitful. And the goal is to bring forth fruit, right? The goal is to be, a fruitful seed, right? Because every tree, right, every tree doesn't bring forth fruit, but the Lord wants you to come to Him, right? Unblemished, right? Just like a lamb. The Lord wants you to come to Him, right? Just like that, unblemished, right? Ready to present yourself, right? As he, gave everybody a specific talent or specific gift, right? The Lord wants you to multiply that talent, multiply that gift, and bring it back to Him, right? 20-fold. Don't bring, hey, don't be like in the other parable where, the guy, he didn't multiply his talents, right? You want to multiply your talents 30, 60, 90, 100-fold. Right? This is how you get that spiritual increase. This is how you receive salvation. This is how you save your soul, right? And lose this world, right? Let's get that. Let's get another precept of Matthew, right? Because all of these things, all of this ties in together, right? Let's look at Matthew, chapter 16, and verse number 33. It says, "But seek ye first," and this is the whole point. This is why we, why we coming back to the Lord, right? The kingdom of heaven. This is a lot of people after the Lombardi Trophy, Larry O'Brien Trophy, right? These are trophies and gold that's in the so-called NFL and the so-called NBA. The professional athletes are seeking after these things, but us as Israelites, the 1/3, the elect, Yahweh told us to seek first, not last, but seek first the kingdom of Yahweh and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So if you spiritually minded, you got your mind keeping commandments, having faith, building up your faith, putting away the things of this world. You're not surfeiting, to do, you're not doing the things that you love the most over the Most High. Whether it's you're in a recording studio, there's nothing wrong. Again, there's nothing wrong with music. There's nothing wrong with making music. But if you're making music and we're in the studio more so than you are studying. If you're trying to be an actor, become an actor, and you're putting the Most High uh, um, on the back burner, then He's not going to increase you, right? Hey, the Most High is going to get if you put the Most High first, He will allow you to to be a singer or a musician or uh, put the best foot forward into your craft. He will allow you to do that, but you have to put the Most High first, and everything and all that you do, pray to Him first, right? And He'll increase you. He'll give you that increase, right? Again, it says, "And His righteousness, right, and all these things shall be added unto you." So again, whatever you want to ask for, I mean, whatever you want, hey, the Lord will give it to you in sincerity, honesty. If you're sincere, if you're honest, and if you're righteous, right? Let's get that real quick. One of my favorite precepts, right? The Lord will give you whatever you want, man, but you have to be honest and sincere. What is that? James, yep, James 1:5. Let's get it. Right, here we go. James 1:5. It says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Yahweh. Right. See, if you lack in anything, if you lack wisdom, if you lack in faith, if you lack in discernment, if you lack in leadership skills, if you lack in any of these things, the Lord said, ask Him. Right. Ask Yahweh. Right. Reading on that giveth to all men liberally. The Lord will give you these things liberally, meaning freely. Hey, ask the Lord to destroy these heathens. He'll give it to you. Now, it might not be when you want it done, but guess what? He'll give it to you, right? The Lord moves on His timeline, but He'll give you these things, right? Especially if you're seeking Him out, right? You're praying to Him constantly. You have a contrite heart. You have a fervent spirit. You on fire. The Lord will give you these things liberally, meaning freely, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given Him. Meaning what? It's just going to be given to you. Read it on. But let him ask in faith. See that? You have to have faith, right? You have to um be confident when you're praying, confident in your walk of life. It's like right? Confident in your everyday walk of life, right? Confident in yourself, confident in this truth, confident in what you're doing and how you're using this truth, right? You can't be wavering. You can't be half guessing a second step, right? It says, "For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed." Right? And that's how we came over here, right? Unwavering. And you came over here on slave ships. We weren't unsure about. We didn't know who we were, and that's why we were tossed to and fro. All right, let me get that. Let's get that precept real quick in Isaiah. Right? The Lord tossed us to and fro. Let's see. I think it's Isaiah 22, 2018. Yep. Right. Isaiah 22:18. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of thy Lord's house. See that? So the Lord, He'll toss and turn you violently like a ball in a large country, right? If you're unwavering, right? If you're unsure, right? So you have to be sure and full of faith when you come into the knowledge of this truth. You can't be wavering, right? Let's get another precept, right? In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 19. Right? Book of Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 19. It says, and for me, that utterance may be given unto me. What is utterance? Meaning to speak. Right? It says that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. So, when you're coming before the Most High, hey, don't be second guessing, don't be wavering, don't be shy, right? The Lord said, the utterance is given unto you, right? Meaning the ability to speak. The Lord gave you the ability to speak. Speak boldly, right? You speak in this gospel. If the Lord, put you in this truth, hey, speak this thing boldly, right? He didn't give this truth to everybody, but He gave it to certain people. And guess what you got to do with it? You come before you come before the Most High in the name of His Son Yahweh Shai, right? You got to speak His name boldly. You got to pray boldly, right? You gotta have some confidence, right? Hey, a lot of people at these jobs, the so-called job places, hey, they're very confident in what they do, right? They're very confident in the decisions that they make. Guess what? You got to be confident in the decision that you made by coming into this truth, right? It says to make known the mystery of the gospel, because this gospel is a mystery to a lot of people. A lot of people don't know this gospel. A lot of people don't know that the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen people. And guess what? He chose you to come into this thing. He chose you to come into this truth, right? He chose you to be an ambassador to represent Him. When you come into the knowledge of this truth, you're representing the Most High, through His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. And so with that, the Lord said, therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. So you got to, again, speak boldly, right? Speak boldly of the name of the Lord, right? Pray boldly. Don't be shy, right? Let me get a couple more precepts. All right, actually, let me go back to Matthew 6. Let me hit that, finish up in Matthew. If I didn't get that, I think see, Matthew 6. Did I hit that already? I think I did. God, I didn't. So this is Matthew 6 and 19. It says, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. Right? For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So the Lord is saying, hey, don't lay up treasures here on earth, right? Because hey, on earth, people can break in and steal your treasures on earth. But in heaven, if you lay your treasures up in heaven, guess what? People ain't gonna steal nothing in heaven, right? People are not gonna steal in heaven. So you got to, lay up your spiritual riches, spiritual bank account here on earth to receive, so you can get that gift in the kingdom of heaven, right? It's a very simple method, right? It's a very simple method, but the Lord is only giving it to His elect on how to achieve it, right? Let's get the book of Colossians. All right. This book of Colossians. Right. It's very important to, again, leave this world behind. Right. Leave it all behind. There's nothing here. There's nothing left in Babylon. We say that all the time. Right. It's Colossians 3 and 2. It says, set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. Again, the Lord is telling you, don't worry about the things on this earth, right? The things on this earth, again, are about to be utterly burnt with fire. And that's why He keeps saying the things are above, right? The things that are about to come, the things in the next life. Set your affection on the things above. Set your affection on the kingdom of heaven. Why? Because the kingdom of heaven is where it's at. That's everlasting. That's where real riches and truth is going to prevail. Right? You're going to see your forefathers and foremothers to live eternal. No more sighing and crying and dying. Sorrow. No more wickedness. No more evil. No more hatred. no more sin, right? You want to set your affection on those things way above anything else, right? The covenants and the glory way above anything else on this earth. True riches, the food and the water is going to taste totally different. The angels, everything is going to be totally different than the things on this earth, right? Having superhuman, supernatural powers. Women not having pain giving birth. Hey, meditate on these things. These are the things that are above. You can't even really fathom the things that you really can't even think of or can't even, put your hands on. Right? This is the kingdom of heaven. This is what's coming to us. This is the reward that we're going to receive by leaving this place, by leaving this world behind, by not, by not gaining this world and saving our souls. Reading on, for ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in Yahweh. See that? It says, for ye are dead, right? And your life is hid with Christ, with Hamashiach and Yahweh. When Hamashiach, who is our life, right? Hamashiach is our life, right? Again, that righteousness, right, through faith shall appear. Then shall ye also appear with him. See that? That's the beautiful thing. The Lord is saying, you're going to also appear with him in glory. And this is what we're waiting for, right? Renouncing corruption, renouncing the things of this world. Verse 5, mortify, meaning to change. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth. Fornication, uncleanness, right? These are the things that's in this world that you got to leave behind. Inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Right? So again, we're reading the same thing, right? The same sins throughout different books, different eyewitnesses. Right here it is, the Lord is telling us to renounce, to get rid of, to throw away, right? If you want to save your soul, right? Give me a couple more. I know I said that before, right? Second Corinthians, it's just the spirit, right? The spirit just form. Let's look at Second Corinthians chapter 4 and verse number 18. It says, while we look not at the things which are seen, right? What are the things that are seen? Once again, the lavish, the fancy lifestyle, right? The $1 million mansions and the gold rings and again the fancy cars. You just spending hella money on helicopter rides, right? The yacht parties. They leave those things behind, man. Right? We're trying to look for the things. Uh, uh, we're trying to look at the things that are not seen, right? But the Lord said, well, we look not at the things which are seen, right? But at the things which are not seen. Right? I'm gonna read that again. It says, while we look not at the things which are seen, right? The things on this earth, but at the things which are not seen. Right? And this is spiritual. We're looking at the things that we can't be seen, the chariots, our foremothers, our forefathers, right? Yahweh Shai in his glory, the kingdom of heaven in his glory, right? Us reigning in Jerusalem and Israel, right? Having these heathens before us, as servants, right? These are the things that can't be seen yet. But guess what? Through faith, we know that these things are going to happen. Right? The Lord already got it mapped out. He already got it promised for us. He already got it set out for us. Right? All we got to do is pass through the rod of the covenant. He's going to have the red carpet laid out for us with golden crowns placed upon our heads. It says, for the things which are seen are temporal. Right? The things on this earth right now, they're temporary. Right? This is only going to be here for a short amount of time. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all your cares in this life. Right? It says, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Again, the kingdom of heaven, everything, right? Everything in the kingdom of heaven is eternal, right? So we have to keep that in mind, right? I know it may be hard for people to understand, to fathom, you know, because again, we were brought up in the world of sin and we were taught the wrong way,
But again, we have to retrain our mind. We have to retrain our thought capability and understand that we have a kingdom of heaven that's, even though it's never been seen, it's there. It's within us. And we have to continue to meditate on that with these precepts, right?
This book of Romans. Just gonna get it out. This book of Romans, chapter 8, verse number 5.
It says, we'll start at verse 4. There's another precept. Again, righteousness, right? Righteousness through faith. Right? It says that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the spirit. See that righteousness of the law, right? It's not after the flesh anymore, but of the spirit, right? Through Hamashiach. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of this flesh. Right? Again, these people, that's after the weed and all of the drugs and the drinking, right? They're satisfied with feeding their flesh. But they that are after the spirit, the things of the spirit. We're satisfied with feeding our spirit, right? That we're satisfied with feeding our spirit because our spirit becomes thirsty. Our spirit becomes thirsty, and what do we receive? This word, this water of the word, right? The spiritual food. This is how we become full, right? This is how we this is what quenches our thirst, the spiritual things, right? It says, "For to be carnally minded is death." Are you thinking about this world, the things of this world, the cares of this world? You know, trying to stock up. Got brothers trying to stock up. They food with toilet paper and paper towel and bottles of water and canned goods. Right? The Lord said, "Hey, that's you're carnal. You're being carnal." And guess what? The Lord said, if you're carnal like that, you carnal minded like that, that's death. Why? Because you don't have no faith in Him. The Lord wants you to put all His trust and faith in Him. Let's get this.
We'll come back to this. The Lord is a jealous God, man. He told us that when we was in Egypt, leaving Egypt, going to the land of Canaan. I think it's Exodus 34:13.
Right? But ye shall destroy their altars, break their and see that this is another cut. This is another precept when these Christians and these damn Muslims and Arabs say that God he don't want us to toss around the Quran and we didn't destroy things and destroy their images. Well, look, it's a damn lie. He did. He told us to destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down the groves. Right? For thou shalt worship no other God. For the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous power. See that? The Lord is jealous. He's a jealous God. He only wants you to serve Him and nobody else. Right? So we have to understand that. Right? Let's go back to what was that? What was I at? In Romans. So I get to Romans. Right? So again, it says, but the carnal mind is verse 7, but the carnal mind is enmity against Yahweh. So if you're thinking carnally, that's against the Most High. You thinking about the things and the cares of this world. I mean, the precepts go on and on and on about being in this world. The Lord said, "Love not the world, neither the things in this world." That's James 4:4. Right? For it is not subject to the law of Yahweh, neither indeed can be. So then they that are in the flesh, see that? It says, so then they that are in the flesh cannot please Yahweh. But ye are not in the flesh, but in the spirit. Right? Again, if you're in the spirit of praising the Most High, you're in the spirit of giving alms, you're in the spirit of fasting, right? You're in the spirit of, if you're a mighty teacher, you're teaching. If you're if you're in the spirit of, you got children, you're a mom, you're teaching your children the commandments. If you're a father, you're teaching, or if you're a husband, you're teaching your children and your wife the commandments, how to be righteous, right? That's you being in the spirit. If so be that the spirit of Yahweh dwell in you. Now, if any man have not the spirit of Hamashiach, he is none of his. Just like that. Lord said, if you ain't in that spirit, man, you're not of him. And if Hamashiach be in you, the body is dead because of sin. It all comes back to sin, right? Being in this world, being carnal. If you're carnal, you're in sin. It says, but the spirit is life because of righteousness. Verse 11, but if the spirit of him that raised up Yahushua from the dead dwell in you, he that raised up Hamashiach from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his spirit that dwelleth in you. So if you're spiritual, the Lord said, hey, that same spiritual body, that same spirit is going to be in you. And it's going to quicken or change your body. But again, you cannot live after the flesh. Man, this whole chapter is fire. It says, verse 13, for if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die. But if you live, but if you do the spirit, do mortify the deeds of the body, just like that, ye shall live. For as many are as led by the spirit of Yahweh, they are the sons of Yahweh. So again, the flesh can't please Yahweh. Only the spirit can, right? And so if you're doing the things that, these works that please the Most High through Yahweh Shai, and guess what? You save your soul, right? It's that simple. You save your soul. But the Lord wants to see you work, right? Because nothing comes easy. The Lord ain't just going to give you nothing. Just like with anything else in this life, right? You have to work for it, right? You want to be the best at anything. You want to get into these these colleges and want to get into these the best schools. You got to work for it, and it's no different than trying to get into the kingdom of heaven. You got to work for it, and the Lord will reward you openly, just like that, right? This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 6, verse 10. For Yahweh is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love. So you got to work. You got to work hard. You got to go hard in this thing. Just like, you want a nice car, you want a nice house. Guess what? You got to work for it. You didn't. Nobody gave you that, and the Lord surely ain't just gonna give you the kingdom of heaven. Because everybody say that they want the kingdom. But everybody ain't gonna get the kingdom. 2/3 of our people not gonna get the kingdom on the first go around. So guess what? You gotta have. There's gonna be certain people that really want to work. That actually is gonna work for this thing. It says, which ye have showed toward his name, and that ye have, again, which you have showed toward his name. So you got to show the Lord that you want this thing. Again, he's going to reward you openly. And that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. It's mighty. So minister to the saints. That's a mighty work. If you're a teacher, if you're a prophesier, or even in your household, you ministering to the saints, right? The Lord said he ain't going to forget. It's like it. He's not going to forget that. All right. Let's get this one in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58. It says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast and unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. So you always want to be abounding in this work, right? I've said it time and time again. I'm gonna say it again. You have to be, you have to be strong. You have to be confident. You have to be faithful doing this work. For as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. So your hard work, you being steadfast and confident, and always on fire, and you're always fasting consistently. It's about consistency, right? The Lord wants to see somebody that's consistent. Not half-assing it. You're not lukewarm. You got 1 foot in and 1 foot out. That's not unmovable. That's not steadfast. You want to be like a mountain, unmovable, right? You want to be strong, right? The Lord doesn't want anybody that's weak, right? It says, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord, right? Let's get this one. 2 Timothy, my precept. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse number 4. It reads, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life. Right? So the Lord is saying right here, no man is, warned, or pretty much if you're worried about um, um, the affairs of this life, right? It says that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. So if you're worried about this life, fighting, in this world, guess what? You can't please the Yahweh Shai, right? It says that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. The Lord chose you to be a soldier. So if you're worried about this life, if you all tangled up in the cares of this life, you can't please Yahweh Shai, right? You can't please him. There's no way. If you're fighting and you caught up in this world, hey, again, you cannot please Yahweh Shai. All right, let's get the last one. I know I said that 10 minutes ago. Let's reset. Right, it's Iraq. So it's not the 1611. Oh, damn. I thought this was 1611. Oh, we gotta get that. All right, let's get to 1611. 16. Slovakia. Here's what I want. Oh, I ain't never seen this before. That says Tobin. Bear with me. I put up the wrong one. Bear with me. I'm trying to look for it. All right, here we go. All right, so it's because Iraq, chapter 19, verse 19. And it reads, the knowledge of the commandments of the Lord is the doctrine of life, and they that do the things that please him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality. Right? So if you do the commandments, you have faith in Yahweh Shai, right? Again, that faith, in Yahweh Shai goes a long way, right? That's what you need at the end of the day to receive the fruit of the tree of immortality, right? And this is what we're, patiently waiting for, right? We're patiently waiting for, um, the kingdom, right? So we can have everlasting life, so we can dwell in peace and in righteousness, right? So we can save our souls and lose this world. And with that, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bashim El Shai, Kum Yashua.